Hey, sports fans, PBZ Sports Chaos. We're back at you. Drinking a little harpoon. Week 1 of the NFL is down. Last week is over. We're into week 2. Week 3 of college football looks to be somewhat exciting. Maybe not as exciting as last week, but I'm looking forward to OU Nebraska finally resuming their rivalry. They're going to resume the game of the year 50 years ago was played in 1971. I'm looking forward to that on Saturday. Hey, by the way, NFL outright winners. There was 9 of them. They were underdogs. I can't even believe it. 12 underdogs covered. 9 of them were outright winners, which means the guys like PB who love fantasy must have done really well because they don't believe in real football. All right, moving on. We'll talk about that momentarily. I got a couple things here, PB, in the 2-minute drill. All right, last night, a little NFL football. Thursday night football so far has been really, really good. Cowboys last week against Tampa Bay came down to the last play of the game. And last night, Washington and the Giants came down to the last play of the game, which I did not expect it to be entertaining, but it was. By the way, Taylor Heineken, is that his name, Heineken?
Heineke.
Oh, Heineke. Oh, I thought it was a Heineken. All right. That boy can play a little bit. He's a pretty good player, huh?
Yeah, he showed at the end of last year, actually.
Yeah, he did in the Tampa Bay playoff game. All right. Hey, little MLB real quick. Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays. This thing's coming down. They're going to be the 2 wild cards teams, one of these 3. They're a half game between each of them right now. I think the Sox got 16 games left. 14 are left for Tampa Bay. Oh, no, 14 for Sox, 16 for Tampa Bay, and 15 for the Yankees. We'll see what's going to happen. By the way, hopefully COVID does not continue to kill the Red Sox because they refuse to get vaccinated. So we'll see what happens there. By the way, PB, we talked about this last week. Vlad Jr., the guy's still hitting unbelievably. If he carries Tampa Bay to the playoffs, I believe, and we said this, I think he's the MVP. Do you agree?
Yeah, Toronto, you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And by the way, you know what? No disoffense to O'Shea Ohtani, but he's not even close to. He's not even in the running. This team is like 102 games out of first place or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the definition of the award really has to be providing some value to the team, and just because you put up gaudy numbers does not necessarily mean you're an MVP, right? So I think the writers will recognize that, and I think you'll see Vlad get some votes.
That's why some sports have an MVP, and then they also have the most outstanding player or something like that, right? So, you know, he should be that maybe. We'll see. Yeah. All right. Hey, let's talk about the seniors for a minute. Last week we talked about Novak, the Joker. I can't even pronounce his last name. He was going for the Grand Slam. He didn't pull it off. He was going for not only for the Grand Slam, but #1 all time in Grand Slam wins at 21. He lost. He was crushed. 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. Baby, I got a feeling he might be done, much like another senior, A-Rod, who looked like another dud in his first game last week for the NFL because he doesn't take it serious. I don't know. We'll talk about A-Rod in a minute. But the other person I want to talk about who's doing very well in her last years, Carli Lloyd scored 5 goals in a international soccer game last night against Paraguay. Yeah, I know it's just Paraguay, but still 5 goals? You don't even score 5 goals in a practice using a soccer. Right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, my God. All right. Let's go on to college football. As I said earlier, the OU Nebraska game, 12 o'clock tomorrow on Fox if you want to watch it. Anyways, we get some picks in a moment, but listen to this, PB. There's been so many upsets this year. 13 ranked teams have already lost this year. That's the most in 30 years. And we've had 14 underdogs as well. By the way, speaking of underdogs, listen to this. Last week, Stanford, 14-point underdog, crushed number 14 USC. Guess what happened to USC's coach, Clay Helton?
Fired.
By the way, he's got a 60% winning percentage since he's been at the helm of that ship. He's out because he lost 1 game. That's brutal. Arkansas, welcome SEC to the welcome Texas to the SEC. 14-point underdogs to Texas, who was number 15. Crushed them. Texas gone. Number 12, Oregon. I did not see this coming. I mean, I thought they could, but They beat Ohio State as a 12.5-point favorite. Ohio State, a 9 o'clock start time for Oregon, basically in Ohio State. Unbelievable. But the big one was Jacksonville State down in Tallahassee, Florida, beats Florida State on a Hail Mary at the end of the game. They're a 1AA school, PB.
I know. Reminds me, remember when Appalachian State beat Michigan?
Michigan, yeah. Similar play, right? Similar play. Hey, give me a takeaway. Do you have, besides those upsets, any other big takeaway last week from college football before we get our picks?
Just the disappointment of the Cyclones in Iowa State. I mean, I had them as my sneaky potential to compete for CFP. They barely beat Northern Iowa in their first week. And I said, well, if they can come back and make a statement against Iowa, and Iowa was coming off a really, a rough game themselves, I thought there was a chance there that they might be able to do that. And that would have made a difference to me. Iowa smoked. They smoked Indiana, right? In week one, Iowa did.
They beat them pretty handily, yes, which I was surprised by. Yeah.
So I figured if Iowa State comes into this game and can win it and stay undefeated and then start to establish themselves, they could still have been in that conversation. Now you can forget about it. I mean, Brock Purdy got benched in that game. They say he's still going to start again this week despite that. But I guess just that overall disappointment in the team that I thought could compete for the CFP coming into this year.
And to that point, I don't even know after seeing them play in that game, can they even compete for the Big 12? I mean, they got a big game in November against Oklahoma. We'll see, but who knows, right?
Yeah, good point.
My takeaway, the Ohio State game, which means the Big Ten is out. There's no way in hell the Big Ten can have a representative in the college football playoffs. I don't see how it can happen. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's a big game going on this week with Penn State, right?
Oh, well, you mentioned that. Let's get into our college picks. Good segue. That's what it's all about here on broadcasting, segues. PB, by the way, you had a good week last week. You're 3-1 other than the Iowa State game. You're doing well. Z was 0-4. I don't know what that's going on, but I already mentioned all these upsets. G Money, which usually is not the money guy in these college games, he's 4-0.
Yeah, well, and I don't know what G did the first week, but I had a 3-1 record week 1, 3-1 week 2, so I'm sitting at 6-2 right now. It's not bad, not bad.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you got this week. Let's start with the whiteout game at Penn State. Auburn travels to Penn State. Penn State is a 5-point favorite. I'm sorry, 5-point favorite. By the way, G Money is taking Auburn in that game.
Yeah, you know what? I like Auburn too. I like the points. I think if Penn State does win this game, it's probably going to be by a field goal. That big back in Auburn is just a beast, and I think that can help Auburn control the clock and keep their defense off the field, and that should help them stay close in this game, close enough to cover the spread.
So the environment of the whiteout game, for fans who don't know it, it's 106,000 screaming mid-Pennsylvania fans who have nothing to do but eat corn and drink beer, are all going to be wearing white, drunk as heck, because it's a 7:30 at night. There's no way in heck those rednecks from Auburn go up there and win that game. I got Penn State to cover it.
All right,
moving on. Michigan State goes down to your neighborhood to face number 25, Miami. Miami is a 6-point favorite. By the way, on the Auburn is also the pick by G Money, the same as you. Michigan State, Miami 6-point favorite. What do you think there?
Yeah, you can't really judge Miami off of that first game that they played because it was against Alabama, and Alabama could potentially crush everybody. So I think Miami at home, they can cover the spread. So I'm going to take the Hurricanes.
I'm not so sure. I believe Miami wins the game. I'm with you. 6 points. I got Michigan State. They looked pretty good so far in their first 2 games. All right. Arizona State, number 19, 4-point favorite. They're traveling to BYU. You and G Money like BYU last week. I did not, but they won. They blew out Utah. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, and they did. They looked pretty good, right? Blowing them out. So Again, as a home dog here, I like BYU, so I'm going BYU again.
You know what? I'm not getting burned again by BYU. I'm going to take them too. Let's start off with the big one in the SEC down in Gainesville. 90,000 crazy Floridians be screaming at Alabama, who comes in as a 14.5-point favorite. You talked about it last week. The Ohio State game was not 12.5, it was 14.5.
Yeah.
This time, I think it's going to be a different story. But what do you think?
Yeah, and I think last week Bama was favored over Miami by 19.5, right? And that was a line that was scaring some people, but we know Vegas knows what they're doing with this Bama team. And, they are playing at Florida. It is in the swamp, and it's an SEC total rivalry matchup, no question about it. I just think that the line is the line for a reason. You can't bet against Bama. I haven't bet against Bama. And I'm not going to do it here either. So even though that 14.5 is a little scary, I'm still going to lay it and take Bama in this one.
You know what? I was tempted to take Florida. I thought they could cover, again, that's 3 scores, 3 touchdowns or 3 scores, right? 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But after I heard Stephen A. Smith give it to Tim Tebow this morning on First Take, I'm going with Alabama as well. I got Alabama too. I'll lay the points with you.
All right. So we're the same. We're different on 2.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the NFL. We talked about last night. We saw Washington and the Giants play, which was a pretty good game. Last week we had some, as I said earlier, we had 9 upsets, outright wins by underdogs, 12 covered. Tell me what was your storylines from last week?
You want my 3 storylines?
Yeah.
All right. Number 1 is Mac Jones, the play of Mac Jones. I think we saw what he's capable of. We saw a team that looked pretty good against a really good Miami team. Let's give Miami credit. They got a good football team this year. They're well coached. They got a good defense. But Mac Jones controlled the game. He really did. They had good time of possession. They ran the ball well. He made the throws when he needed to make the throws. And if it weren't for a couple of fumbles, especially that one down the end by Harris, the chip shot field goal would have given them the lead. I think their defense would have been stout enough to hold them, and they would have won that game. So I'm gonna say that play of Mac Jones to me was a big takeaway that the Patriots can certainly ride this kid, and he should be the quarterback of the future based on what I'm seeing.
I'm with you. And by the way, even though the Dolphins played well and they won the game, and I think Flores outcoached Belichick, they still should be on the phone as of last Monday calling the Houston Texans because Tua did not show me anything. He did not show me anything. Deshaun Watson has to be in Miami pretty soon.
Okay.
All right, let me give you one of my takeaways because that's going to be a little needle to you. The demise of the Pittsburgh Steelers is greatly over-exaggerated, PB. Pittsburgh on the road beat the second best team in the AFC, Buffalo, 23-16. The Steelers look really, really good. That defense is tremendous. And by the way, they got really good wide receivers. We don't give the wide receivers enough credit. Juju is Juju. Deion Johnson's a really good wide receiver. And, of course, my man Chase Claypool. They got some talented wide receivers in that team. So that's my takeaway. What do you have for number 2?
My number 2 is I'm going to stick right in that same division. And I just want people to get off their high horse about the Baltimore Ravens and how they think this team is going to be okay with all the injuries that they have. They keep saying, oh, they'll get through it. They have a good defense. They have Lamar. They'll figure it out. This team's not going to figure it out. But Lamar Jackson can't throw the football to save his life. We've all seen that. Granted, I'll give it that he can run, but they're becoming very one-dimensional as a team. And I just don't see, aside from even their backfield, they got one strong corner, but after that, they're pretty decimated and pretty weak. This team is toast. I mean, for all of us who thought that, a lot of us picked them to make the playoffs. I think you picked them to win the division. I didn't pick them to win the division. You picked them to make the playoffs. But that was before all the injuries. And could they still somehow squeak in with maybe a 10-7 record or something like that? Yeah, maybe, but I don't see it. This team is not one that we should be keeping an eye on as a playoff team this year. Losing to the Raiders, opening night for them was just a horrible loss. And we all know the Raiders aren't going anywhere this year. So that's my second storyline.
By the way, I think the Raiders played pretty good in that game, by the way. I know the Ravens let it go they should have, whatever, they choked. But, hey, I will say this. I'm with you. The Ravens are this year's 49ers. Last year, the 49ers had all those injuries that decimated them right after coming off the Super Bowl. That's this year's Ravens, unfortunately. I got one for you. Again, I'm going to get you. You said the Saints are going to suck this year, basically, under 500. They crushed Green Bay, who I thought was probably the second best team in the NFC. And I'll talk about Rodgers in a moment. Wow. And by the way, famous Jameis, 5 touchdown passes. God forbid.
Yeah.
The Saints are for real. They're for real.
Yeah, and it was funny because I think Aaron Rodgers said something to the effect that he got a phone call and said, "Hey, the team that won the Super Bowl last year lost to the Saints in the regular season, 38-3." Which Brady and company did lose, right? That game.
Yep.
Same score. So that was my number 3. So before I even really comment on that, my number 3 was, what is the future of those two teams, the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints? Everyone, to your point, was kind of looking down on New Orleans, their first full year without Drew Brees, and everyone was saying, "Hey, Rodgers is back," and this team was a couple plays away from being in the Super Bowl last year. So, and he got a lot of his skill players are back too. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and everybody. So why couldn't this team just be the one that probably can compete the most with Tampa for that AFC Championship again this year? But with that loss, everyone's automatically now thinking it's not them, right? So is this an aberration, what happened in week 1? And we'll still see Green Bay finish with a strong record with 4 or 5 losses maybe, and New Orleans go the other way with 7 or 8 losses? Or is this really what those two teams are about? I don't think this is what these two teams are about.
We'll see. I think the Saints, first of all, they lost nothing on defense, really. They still have most of their offense back, aside from Drew Brees, who couldn't throw the ball over 20 yards. Jameis proved he could throw it over 50. So we'll see. But Rodgers, that's my number 3 point. I think Rodgers is taking the money and running. And this is why, if you think back to when he was drafted, why did he slip? People had a lot of questions about his mind. I know he's a smart, bright guy with the UCal, but a lot of people thought he was kind of lazy, not motivated, didn't love football. And I think right now, the only thing Rodgers cares about is getting paid and putting up some stats. And the wins and losses don't matter. It's a flag football game to him at the end of the day. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I picked him for our fantasy league, right?
Yeah. He certainly didn't put up any stats in that last game.
No, he didn't. You could have done better than that.
I know, right?
All right, let's get some picks. Last week you were 3-3. I was 3-3. G Money was 2-4. He had a couple of asinine picks. That's why. He's got a couple this week as well. Let's start out down there in your hometown. Buffalo goes to Miami. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's interesting. I thought originally, if I was just looking ahead to this game in week 2, I would probably look at Miami as potentially a team that could beat Buffalo in the spot. But that would be under the assumption that Miami went up to New England and lost their opener and was coming back to play home 0-1. And Buffalo took care of business against Pittsburgh and was 1-0. And if that were the case and they were coming down here, Buffalo 1-0 and Miami 0-1, I probably would pick Miami. But because it's the other way around and Miami's 1-0, winning up in New England, and Buffalo losing that game to Pittsburgh, I think Buffalo can't start 0-2. They just can't. The team's too talented. So I think Buffalo comes down here and beats Miami.
I'm with you for the same exact reason you gave. I agree with you there. G Money's got Buffalo as well. All right, let's move on to the next game. The Rams at Indy. And by the way, Matthew Stafford proved why all the excitement's on the Rams last week in that Sunday night game. Excuse me. By the way, I know I got some fans out there that are big Pat Mahomes fans. I think Matthew Stafford throws the best long ball in football today, by far. Yeah,
he looked really good in that game against the Bears. And, Indy did not look good last week against Seattle at all. So, you have to deal with the West Coast, you're traveling. But you know what? They're still the favorite team on the road here. A lot of times it's hard to bet against a home dog, right?
Yep.
But until Indy shows me otherwise, and how much I love Carson Wentz as a quarterback.
Yep. Yep.
Sarcastically.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot stand him. I think he's horrible. He's one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. So despite the fact that Indy's got a decent set of talent around him, good offensive line, good defense, etc., I just don't see that Rams defense, to me, could be tops in the league. And like you said, I think Stafford's set up for success in that organization. Love their offensive skill players too. So I'm taking the Rams here.
All right, me too. By the way, G Money as well. All right, Minnesota, your pick to win the NFC North goes to Arizona, who laid a beating on Tennessee last week. Whoa. What do you like there?
Yeah, and I also got Arizona as one of my wild card teams this year.
You do? Yep.
I'm high on Arizona, and it's in Arizona, and Arizona looked really good last week against a Tennessee team that everyone thinks is another one of those teams that can compete with the Chiefs. And well, I don't see that happening right now, the way Tennessee showed up last week. So, and Minnesota disappointed in Cincinnati. I just, as much as they need this game, I just don't think they can overtake Kyler Murray and company. So I'm taking the Cardinals here.
All right, across the board, G Money and I have them as well. All right, Baltimore goes out to the LA Chargers, who beat Washington last week. Herbert continues, showed everything that he was all about last year. What do you think here?
The Dallas playing at LA. Yeah.
Yes, Dallas to the Chargers. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Chargers. I mean, Dallas is, I know they look really good against Tampa, no question about it. The Chargers have a good defense. They can get after the quarterback. The offensive line of Dallas is starting to get decimated here.
Again.
Yeah, again. So I just think Herbert has a big game. I think Dak has a big game too. But in the end, I think the Chargers win this one.
All right. So I was initially going to pick Chargers. I know G Money's picking them as well. But then after I watched the Giants game last night, Washington's defense did not look as good as everybody thought they were going to be. And that's why I think the Chargers looked very good last week. I believe if the Cowboys can put up 30 points in this game, which I think they will, they'll win the game. So I'm taking the Cowboys. I'll probably regret it, but I'm taking the Cowboys.
All right.
All right. Tennessee goes to Seattle. We already talked about Tennessee's issues. I don't think they get better. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't either. And Seattle's a tough place to play, and Vegas already has them at a touchdown favorite. So to me, this is an easy pick. It's Seattle.
I'm with you, but our boy G Money, for some reason or other, believes Tennessee can regroup and win. He's got them winning the game.
All right.
All right, let's finish up. We already talked about the Baltimore problems. I don't even know why we're picking this game, but it's a pretty good game on Monday Night Football. KC goes to Baltimore. I think too many injuries. You already said it earlier. I've got KC easily. You must have them right as well.
Yeah, and it's just for our fans' sake. It is Sunday Night Football that they're playing.
Oh, Sunday. I'm sorry.
Sunday Night Football. Yeah, this is not going to be close. I mean, I just told you what I think of Baltimore. KC will manhandle them. I mean, they're probably going to end up try to play man coverage. They'll probably double Tyreek, and that means Mecole Hardman is going to get open. That means Kelsey's going to get open. Whoever they put in as a third receiver, whether it's Demarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle, is going to get open. And Mahomes is just going to find that receiver all day long. So to me, this is an easy win for Kansas City. I'd even put it up close to 3 touchdowns.
Ooh, I'll just say this. If for some reason Baltimore could find a way to pull an upset at home on Sunday night and win this game, I believe KC has no shot to be even in the AFC Championship this year.
All right, that's a big if, and I'll eat all my words next week if that does happen. But
by the way, I'm picking KC to win the game myself, but I'm just saying it could happen because there's a lot of doubts in my mind still around that KC offensive line and Mahomes being able to step up the pocket. All right, real quick, you got a Dynasty League trade you want us to talk about for a moment here. Give it to me.
Yeah, I gotta throw these trades out there. I love your analyzation of them, and so do our league members. So this one is, and this actually involved me and my team in Dynasty. So giving Derek Carr and Zach Pascal wide receiver for Indy, who's kind of their one receiver, him or Pittman, right? And a 2020
receiver. Okay.
A 2022 fourth round pick.
2022 fourth. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 4, and this is what I got in return, which is why I like the trade. Daniel Jones and Jalen Waddle.
Waddle will be an absolute stud. Absolutely. I think Derek Carr's got a couple good years left. I don't know that Daniel Jones is going to be a bust. I know he hasn't shown a lot. He was okay last night. So I think in the end of the day, that's probably going to be a pretty good trade. I like you taking Daniel Jones and Waddle for Carr, the stiff, and the 2022 draft pick, which may be equivalent to the stiff as well.
And here's the other piece of it too. My other 2 quarterbacks are Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford. So Daniel Jones doesn't even start for me. He's just on the bench. I have, someday maybe
ride your bench till Stafford retires.
Yeah, and this is a 2 QB league, so I can start Stafford and Josh Allen every single week in and week out. So he just got to pick up on my bye weeks. When the 2 weeks that one of those 2 are on bye is the only time I'm going to use it.
All right, you fleeced the other person. Good job. That was a good trade.
All right, thanks.
Nice. All right, sports fans, you heard it here. PB&Z Sports Chaos. We'll come back at you next week. PB, have a great weekend, brother.
All right, you as well. I'll be at the game in Miami. So
yeah, go get him.
All right.